What if everything you've ever seen in the Hoyoverse has already ended? What if these Earth-like worlds aren't worlds at all, but echoes, memories, simulations of civilizations already consumed by something we were never meant to see? This is the darkest secrets of the Hoyoverse, a theory that connects every Hoyoverse title into one terrifying reality. The truth is lying, the world is dying, the universe is collapsing, and we're walking inside a reflection. In real-life science, one theory suggests that the universe has a limit. After the Big Bang, everything expands outwards. Space, time, matter, galaxies all drifting apart. Stars are born and worlds form. Creation happens through expansion. But if there's enough mass and enough gravity pulling inwards, the expansion could eventually slow down and reverse. Instead of spreading infinitely, everything would begin to fall back together. Galaxies would collapse, matter would compress, until it all returns to a single point. This is known as the Big Crunch, where time reverses, space contracts, and everything you've ever known collapses into a single silent point. No escape, no warning, not even a single scream. And Hoyoverse takes this theory and turns it into something cosmic, personal, and horrifying. The Black Tide. In Honkai Star Rail, we assumed we were experiencing our universe, a universe still expanding. But the truth of this world, and many others, is that expansion has ended and the collapse has already begun. The Black Tide is that collapse. A wave of entropy from beyond the stars, a force that doesn't just end life, it ends memory, it ends time, it ends reality itself. In May of 2023, Honkai Star Rail released the Celestial Myriad trailer, a stunning visual showcase introducing us to the aeons, cosmic beings that shape the paths of the universe. But hidden in this trailer is something most and myself missed: the finality. One word: reflected. But not just stylistically, it's symmetrical, as if it's being mirrored. At first, it seems like a design choice, but in context, it is a message. A message about finality, the aeon of ending everything. But more importantly than that, the actual force consuming the universe. Finality isn't just a character or a concept, it is the Black Tide. A metaphysical collapse, a cosmic level of entropy, and the end of expansion, a reversal of the Big Bang. The universe crashing back inwards, and the mirror, well, a line between existence and oblivion. The final barrier holding the tide at bay, and honestly, the key to this entire discovery. Without this realization, none of this video would have existed. The connection between mirrored and dying worlds in Amphoreus and Tavyet, or Tavyet if you know what I'm talking about. All of this came together to make me realize that finality is what lies behind the grand mirror, and what the Hoyoverse and Black Swan's dark secret is all about. In early 2024, Honkai Star Rail released a lighthearted web event during Penacony Patch 2.1. You play as a bartender, mixing drinks and serving familiar faces. It was cute, it was fun, until it wasn't. One of the drinks you could serve was called the Ball Royale, a red drink looking suspiciously like Acheron herself, but the name: Ball. The same name used for the Raiden Shogun, the Electro Archon of Inazuma in Genshin Impact. In the drink's description, well, that's when everything changed. The IPC, the Interstellar Peace Corporation, describes discovering a long-forgotten ancient planet. A planet called the Tavyet, a name that is the mirrored version of Tavyet. But this isn't just a funny reference. The drink goes further, describing the actual events from Genshin's history, what happened in Inazuma, and the tragedy of Conria. That's not a nudge or a wink or even an Easter egg. This was confirmation. The world of Genshin Impact is actually Tavyet, but we're in Tavyet. So wait, what are we playing? After Penacony, Starworld takes us to a quiet, fading world, one that doesn't feel like the others. Its name is Amphoreus. We're led here by Black Swan, an agent of the Garden of Recollection, a faction that preserves fate and memory through mirrors. And she tells us something strange. The world of Amphoreus can only be seen through the light of the mirrors on the Garden of Recollection. Not through a telescope, not from a spaceship, only reflected. And in physics, that actually means something. A mirror doesn't show you the object itself, it shows you light, delayed, reversed, imperfect at times. A reflection is never the real thing, it's what was already gone. And the world of Amphoreus is locked beneath a firmament, an artificial sky, a boundary that hides the stars and hides the truth. Its people are already suspecting something is wrong and that there's more beyond the sky, and they're right. What we're seeing and even experiencing is not Amphoreus now, it is a reflection. A memory. We're not visiting Amphoreus, we're remembering it. The Black Tide is not a metaphor. It is not magic or a curse. It is finality, the end of all things. And it's only natural for things within the universe to try and resist this immense force. I mean, in the laws of physics, every force has an imposing force pushing right back. And in Star Rail, one of these forces is another Aeon. Thule, the Aeon of Remembrance, seeks to preserve fading worlds from succumbing to the Black Tide. But even they can't stop the Black Tide. Its force is far too great. So, with the help of preservation, they created a mirror, one so vast it borders the universe itself. A mirror that captures the light of the existence before its inevitable collapse. So how did the preservation help with creating this giant space mirror? Well, a mirror isn't just glass like Thule. It is glass against a base of metal. We know the preservation created a border at the beginning of time to push away the darkness, and Thule laid glass upon that border to create a mirror, perhaps to save the world through memory, in hopes of creating a new one after the Great Calamity, a world built from fragments of the old, and for a time that memory holds. But the Black Tide does not stop. It creeps closer, each wave stronger than the last. And as time goes on, worlds rise, civilizations seek truth, humanity dares to look beyond the sky, and in doing so, they break the illusion and invite the collapse. Because if you stare into the abyss stares back. This is the cycle, maybe the greater cosmic cycle if you want to go that far. Expansion, revelation, collapse, again and again. Like high tide and low tide. And in each cycle, like Amphoreus, only the mirrors or memories remain. Witnessing the collapse of Amphoreus is not only the trailblazer in Dan Heng, but also a genius, a scientist, a collector of data. The Herta, one of the greatest minds in the universe and a researcher of the simulated universe, someone who understands what Black Swan is trying to show us. She observes the memories of Amphoreus, not with sorrow, but with interest. Because what if collapse can be modeled? What if a world could be rebuilt or resimulated? And that is where the biggest experiment in the history of Hoyoverse begins. Herta finds another dead world with a forgotten name, buried in IPC records, Tavyet, and she recreates it entirely, a simulation of a world long lost to the Black Tide. Its people, its gods, its wars, its sorrow, beauty, and history. A new version of Tavyet running endlessly, searching for a solution. We don't play the true Genshin Impact. We play a simulation of it, a looping experiment, the Traveler being a variable and Paimon being a guide. The Divine Nails, Anchors of Time, and Celestia, a final chance. Every single loop, a failed attempt to save a world already consumed by the Black Tide. But maybe with the right inputs, one loop may work and one story might change. Maybe then fate can be rewritten and the simulation can end. Or is it really that simple? Who's really watching the simulation? Because if Herta is the one who created the world of Genshin, she may not be watching alone. There may be others. The witches and the watchers. They may be the reason the simulation is still running. Herta herself in her 5-star form is dressed as a witch. She uses mirrors and traps memory eaters, speaking in riddles constantly. But this isn't just aesthetic, it's symbolic, because inside the simulation that same presence may appear in many forms. Syndrome, the creator of the Catherines most likely, and a cold observer of the world. A puppet master with ties to every nation, just like Herta's puppets in the space station scattered around the world. And the Catherines, each one a perfect replica, each one saying the same line, each one watching what's going on. Puppets of a larger system, just like the mini Hertas we encounter in Honkai Star Rail. Automated, observing, collecting data. Then there is the Hexen Circle, a secret circle of witches. Figures like Alice, Rhine-daughter who study ley lines, and the very borders of the world, who know the truth about Irminsul and memory and deletion. Alice, one of the members, is said to patrol the edge of the world, but what is she really watching for? A collapse? A tear? A tide? You see, these themes go beyond the world of Amphoreus and Tavyet. Noose themselves is set up like a grand universal observer gazing upon worlds. Even in patch 3.2, we come to learn that Lygus is more than just a player in the story, but an observer from beyond it, meeting Herta in the lobby before she tries to inject herself into the world. Regardless, some of these witches may not even be from the original simulation at all. They could be like Herta or Lygus, external observers, silent caretakers of a dying system, watching and waiting. A final coven of guardians, searching for the story that survives the finality, or maybe even exploiting it. As the tide consumes the universe, planets are slowly enveloped by its black and red sludge, a corruption that spreads like rot through reality itself. But not every planet is the same. Some must know what's coming, and some try to fight it. They create protective barriers, desperate measures to hold the tide and delay the inevitable. No solution is perfect, but one method appears again and again across Hoyoverse titles. Divine nails, world nails, anchors of stability. We've seen them in Genshin, massive golden structures piercing the land, fallen from Celestia, unmoving and untouchable. But what if they're not meant to judge? What if they're more than just punishment? What if the nails are trying to save the world? Within Genshin Impact's lore, this is more than just a theory. They're said to suppress forbidden knowledge. Even the black sludge in the chasm appears to be a manifestation of black tide energy. If Fuli's mirror preserves the reflection of dying worlds as the black tide encroaches inward on the entire universe, then perhaps these nails are what pin these worlds to the mirror, anchoring them in place against the pull of collapse. A world half in shadow, half in light, and half already gone. Half lost to the abyss, the other half desperate, trying to hold on. But humans, or humanity, in every cycle want to know more. They seek the truth, they chase power, and when they do, they pull the nails. That's when collapse becomes irreversible. In Genshin, some nails have already been removed. And look, the abyss is spreading. The black tide has begun to seep in, now even threatening the borders of Notland. And this metaphor, this warning, hides even deeper in Honkai Star Rail. Look at the Azumo planar ornament, a relic from Acheron's fallen world. A perfect haunting symbol, half red, half blue, with a glowing disc slicing through the middle. One side corrupted and fading, and a planet sliced by a line of light capturing its memories like a scanner before being lost to oblivion. That's not just design, that's a map and a warning. Acheron's world is already gone and many more are close behind. Acheron came from a world that lost. A planet once vibrant is now consumed, swallowed by the black tide. The world was even similar to both Tavyet and Amphoreus, being under the protection of a firmament. It also echoed the world of Honkai Impact 3rd, structured around divine beings like Hershers. Acheron tells us that the firmament of Izumo was created to prevent innumerable gods of misery from passing through. But it wasn't enough, not even against the tide. And yet Acheron is still here. She walks mainly in silence, remembering what happened, but only for a moment. But more importantly, she found a way out into the Trailblazer. Somehow Acheron escaped, not just her planet, but she escaped the black tide itself, the collapse itself. In her story trailer, she says the place is silent. just like the one before, and the one before that. It's a chilling line, but it suggests that this isn't the first world that she's seen fall. It's not even the second. Acheron may be a witness to Finality's endless cycles, its method of cruelty. When she awoke from the fall of Inazumo, she said the sea's horizon still held faint thunder, and the falling blood rain was easing. The sight of that moment lay strikingly clear before me. All other memories, both prior and subsequent, paled and slowly ebbed away. This is her remembering the end as she carries it forward, and understanding that all things, even memory, are lost to the black tide. Now, Acheron is a self-annihilator and an emanator of the nihility, a being aligned with emptiness yet walking towards meaning, a contradiction that shows itself within her own design, someone who dares to try and escape the event horizon of nihility and the incoming end. And maybe that's why she has two forms, one cloaked in violet and lightning, showing her fight for freedom, similar to even Genshin and Outland with their 6 heroes who once faded in black and white, looking to reclaim their color. It's crazy when you look around to think in this mindset that the signs were all there all along, even in Acheron's own trailer titled Colors. Her other form, pale, red mark covered in thorned flowers and flame, a version of herself touched by finality, by the black tide, and by the end of everything. She is still Acheron, but more. This version is a symbol of the trauma she endured and the person she became just to survive. Acheron's story reveals to us the path of defiance and survival against forces that feel impossible to overcome. She's the one who remembered what should not be remembered, and yet still chose to walk forward. Acheron says to never turn back as the path behind is gone. Acheron is both a person and a sword carried across space and time, a memory sharpened to fight against the tide, and a refusal of eternity. And she doesn't seem to be done fighting. Every Trailblazer moves forward. That's the point. They seek, they push, they change fate, and they write stories, or rewrite them perhaps. But what happens when the journey stops? What happens when the fuel runs out or the mission ends? Like we said previously, in physics we know how the universe begins, the Big Bang, a spark of infinite energy expanding ever outward. You can think of this expansion as the Trailblaze, pushing forward, connecting worlds, and creating moments. But then there's the big crunch, where when the expansion halts, and the universe collapses inward. And like we said earlier, as that collapse begins, worlds are consumed, dragged into the black tide, lost forever into finality. And at the center of that collapse, a supermassive black hole, a singularity that absorbs light, time, memory, even identity. Nihility, not just despair, but stasis, not chaos, but stillness. In Star Rail, nihility is symbolized by a black hole, a force not of violence but of forgetting. The Aeon of Nihility leaves no trail. Its followers walk towards absence, not presence. Lone voyagers in the cosmos are driven by two desires: to tread in the trails of the past or forge their own way. But stop moving and you fall into the third path, the abyss. And that is what every Trailblazer risks becoming. Not through failure, but through finality. If the journey stops, if memories fade, if nothing changes, the story ends, the black hole wins, and finality claims everything. Nihility becomes a tool or a force, pulling everything towards a single point so that finality can come consume it all. This isn't just philosophy, it's happening right now in Honkai Star Rail. The Astral Express, the literal embodiment of trailblazing, is running out of fuel both literally and possibly metaphorically. Not just energy, but purpose. The journey itself may be in danger. And if it stops, or if even in patch 3.2 looks behind a little too long, that's the moment it happens. The moment expansion ends and the collapse begins. This is the truth that Hoyoverse has been whispering all along. The Trailblaze must go on, even in despair, even in silence, even after we succeed, because when we stop even for just a little too long, the black hole is waiting. And that is what Acheron learned all the way back in Izumo. That even a journey that wins, even a journey that reaches its end in a positive way, where origin goes against everything. If a journey comes to a close, then no matter what, when you stop, nihility will consume, and finality still always wins. Finality wins no matter the ending, because finality wins when things end, when things slow down, when things stop pushing forward, when the train stops moving. Nihility is still pulling. It is a force that is always there, which just leads me to think that it is so interesting that a character like Black Swan and Acheron just so happened to meet by fate, of course, in a place like Penacony. Clearly, Hoyoverse was setting up for something even larger. Black Swan has been an extremely important figure in Honkai Star Rail's history, introducing us to the Aeons themselves in a promotional trailer. She then joined us in Penacony, aiding us on our adventure through the Dream World. Black Swan later continued to guide us to Amphoreus, promising the Astral Express crew that the answers found there would fuel the train indefinitely. Black Swan is all about fate, memories, and time. She's sort of like a mirror walker, taking steps through worlds beyond the glass border and seeing their stories, their memories. She calls herself a memo keeper, but who is she really? Her ultimate is called the bliss of other worlds embrace. She smiles, the mirror shatters, and from beyond it, the abyss reaches through. Beneath the silent waters lies an endless abyss. These aren't the words of someone fighting the end. They are words of someone who has come to accept it. In her character lore, Black Swan is someone who reveres memory. She watches entire cities without leaving a trace. She knows that humanity believes they move forward to the future, but says, and yet fail to realize we are all in fact moving towards the past. That is not nihilism, nor is it despair. That's awareness. And yet, despite this acceptance, she walks on. She observes. She remembers. Because she believes a garden has a purpose. The most luminous and lavish memories are to be sheltered in the pure land of recollection. In the tales whispered among the memo keepers, Fuli will blend these recollections into the Eden of blessed insight, and they shall serve to reshape the entirety of the world after its annihilation. Fuli's plan to recreate the world after the Black Tide only works if someone gathers the memories, and no one gathers memories like Black Swan. I believe Black Swan may not just be from the garden, she may not even be from Star Rail. She may be from Tavyet, from the original world, the real world before it was consumed, Tavyet. A witch, a memory, a survivor. She may have escaped like Acheron, but unlike Acheron, who never looked back, she turned around, stepping into the mirror. And now she watches every reflection, hoping to preserve them, hoping to warn them, hoping that this time the story might end differently, unlike the fate that met her own world, possibly. In Genshin, the Hexen Circle is a circle of witches who study ley lines, memory, deletion, and cosmology. One of them even patrols the edge of the world. They see things that others aren't meant to. Black Swan could have been one of them, or maybe even the one who saw too much. I mean, her form resembles the Welkin Moon, a moon destined to rise after the Frost Moon fails to turn. With the Hexen Circle witches being directly tied to Simulanka, a story that outlines a triple goddess structure similar to the moons, and even includes the creation of a new moon in its side quest. The witches clearly have a connection to the moon, further proved in their symbol appearing on the Wheel of Fate for Nod Cry. One of the witches could be the Welkin Moon, the one who eventually finds a way to escape the Black Tide. And Genshin may have already shown us a character who did just that. Octavia. In the book The Little Witch and the Undying Fire, she says, the entire cosmos is going to die soon. Things peaked but not long ago, and are about to go south very fast. She returned from her long wandering across the stars through collapse to warn others. Octavia may be Black Swan, or Black Swan may at least be the person Octavia came into contact with wandering the stars. So why does Black Swan then bring us to Amphoreus, beyond the revelation of the Black Tide and its greater threat to the entire cosmos? Well, it's all about fuel, right? She said it herself. The key to the train's infinite potential lies in Amphoreus. But how? How does Amphoreus lead to fuel? Well, what fuels the Trailblaze? That's pretty simple. It's adventure. It's moving world to world, solving problems, taking on new passengers, leading new journeys, and pushing forward. Welt and Himiko let us know that the train's fuel levels are running extremely low. Now, how does that happen? I'm not 100% sure. In theory, as long as people stay on the train and keep pressing forward, the train is self-fueling. So it's weird that they sense the train is running out of gas. This might not be a physical running out of gas. It might mean that Himiko and Welt are knowledgeable of something greater incoming, an existential threat to the crew that is unavoidable. Black Swan, I believe, is the catalyst to that threat, the threat being a question. Why keep trailblazing? Why keep moving forward endlessly? Especially if it feels like nothing ever changes or gets better. Black Swan provides the crew with a solution, the world of Amphoreus, an infinitely resetting loop of adventure that ends in tragedy and starts anew, with infinite possibilities and infinite potential. How could this fuel the train? Well, simply a dream engine of some sort, hilariously even found in Penacony already. Taking Amphoreus and making it into an energy engine of perpetual motion, or a self-sustaining reactor of some sort where energy is never lost and continues endlessly on a loop, like Amphoreus and infinity sign. If the Trailblaze is what we say it is, where it is the expansion of space, the train and its tracks will push further and further if Amphoreus was the core as the engine. Himiko, Welt, March, the Trailblazer, all of them could leave the train theoretically, and it would just push forward endlessly, finally defeating Finality using its own evil against itself. I know this seems rather crazy, but scientists for years have been trying to figure out this exact same scenario for Earth with infinite energy. Like, imagine how it would reshape the world. So that's it then. Amphoreus is the ending of Hoyoverse. We finish this world, we beat the Black Tide, and Finality with a bow on top. Except ask yourself this question. Really ask yourself, if we do that, are we not becoming the demons we hate in our own stories? Although Amphoreus isn't real, it's a dead world, a memory world. My question to you is it real? Amphoreus is a world that is dead, but yet we may visit it. And with 3.2 story behind us, the Trailblazer most likely will eventually learn a way to fully cheat death and get out of Amphoreus. Is Amphoreus real? If we put Amphoreus into a dream engine, are we not exactly like everything we hate? The elite titans, allowing the suffering of those below them, or Celestia in Genshin, creating the loops over and over again and punishing those that try to defy it. The Trailblazers accepting the dream engine and enslaving Amphoreus make us become the idea of Finality itself. It is sadly an answer, but not the true answer of the Trailblaze. I think this is the moral question the crew will face at the very end, and will really nail home the idea of Trailblaze and what it's meant to be. Maybe there is an actual solution that will satisfy both the Trailblaze and ending the Black Tide, but this is sadly not one of them. To make it really simple, imagine if Genshin was the dream engine. We spend years of that game trying to defy the rulers of that world, those rulers in this new scenario being the Astral Express, the people keeping the system in place, sure, for their greater good of them saving their world, but like always, it really is a question of, is the sacrifice of the few okay to save the many? The Astral Express train on its tracks is headed towards a group of billions of people who will certainly die if they are hit, but you the player will pull the lever, changing its course to kill 12 people you've grown extremely close to over and over again to save the rest of the world. There really is no right or wrong answer. It's awful no matter the choice. Either way, Black Swan may be a memo keeper, but deep down she may be something more or something else. Not a prophet, not a hero, but one who chooses in the face of collapse not to scream, but to remember. She doesn't defy Finality, she lives in spite of it. And I think that's our whole goal here with Amphoreus, to show us that there are answers to Finality out there, but some, maybe even all, lead back to it one way or another. So, what now? What happens if everything ends? What happens when finality reaches its own end? I mean, Fuli's mirror was supposed to preserve everything, a reflection of all that was, but reflections are fragile. Memories fade. Even the most luminous moments eventually dissolve. Humanity in real life shows us that. Fuli finds themselves defying finality through preservation, but finality in the Hoyoverse isn't just an end, it is also a beginning. In a sense, Fuli is aiding it, preserving memories and world data that may serve its purpose for finality later. We know that when paths and their ideals grow too close, they merge, like harmony and order. What if that were to happen here? What would become of the mirror? Would it shatter, unleashing the hands of the abyss to roam free in search of their next target? What if finality's true goal in Honkai Star Rail is self-consuming? As Aeons fall one by one in the Aeon War, will there be nothing left to restart the engine? Are all of the Aeons just delaying the inevitable? What if some are already being consumed unknowingly? Hoyoverse has teased a realm beyond the imaginary tree, a place even Aha reached, a place not just beyond understanding, but beyond structure. It really makes you wonder if this is the beginning of something much bigger narratively. The final finality. Elio's plan to bring a true ending to Terminus through the Stellaron Hunters. And that leads us to another final question. The Stellarons, cosmic seeds of chaos, forces of destruction falling to random worlds, corrupting them, altering fate itself. What if they're not what they seem? What if Stellarons are not weapons of finality or aiding finality, but a weapon somehow against it? It would explain why the most powerful beings in the cosmos have created an entire team to hunt them down. Maybe destruction is not the enemy. Maybe it's the only thing powerful enough to shatter a loop. Maybe there are answers to this equation we have yet to realize and yet to solve. And yet we find ourselves somewhere in between. A trailblazer, a Stellaron incubator, a variable. You, the one who holds memory, the one who walks through reflections, the one who doesn't know if any of this is even real, the witness, and you keep going anyways. Not because the world is safe, not because the ending is even guaranteed, not because everyone will even make it to the end with you, but because the story matters. And when it finally arrives, the wave of darkness, the wave of despair, the wave without warning, there won't be a single scream, but maybe it wasn't silence. Maybe it was a choice. Like Black Swan, we choose not to scream, but to remember. To remember in hope for something beyond the darkness. This will probably go down in SipSip history as one of my craziest videos to date, and I wish this was everything, but this entire script, beyond a few adjustments, was written pre-3.2. There is so much to talk about after this most recent patch, and I think I may have mapped out everything in the Hoyo universe, so if that's something of interest, please let me know by either commenting how much you enjoyed this video, hitting like to tell me you want more, or subscribing to make sure you don't miss the next one. I would genuinely love to hear your thoughts and opinions, and if this opened your mind to some new perspective on the Hoyoverse in these games. Also, Hoyoverse, because I know you're watching this, if I am at all correct or on the right path with this lore, please give me a sign. I'm sure I will find it. I can't lie, I felt really insane making this script, like I had gone off the deep end completely, but it just makes so much sense to me when I read it back. Anyways, as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.